Welcome to Uniquely Female Troubles. My name is Leslie Wells. I want to ask you a question. Were you ever taught anytime in your life to carry your keys when you're going out to your car like this, with them sticking out so you can punch somebody with them in case they try to attack you? Well, who would you need to punch with your keys? Would it be a female or a male? And now I want to ask you, I'm going to come back to that, but I want to tell you a story. A friend of mine, a man who was in his 30s, was walking home from a restaurant, and it was pretty late. It was like 11 p.m. and it was dark, and he was in the city, but there weren't many people around. And then he went around the corner to go where he needed to go to catch the bus, and he saw 4 women standing on the corner. And he got really scared. Like they might attack him. They might even R-word him. And, he did not want to walk past those women. So he turned around and went back the other way. And he went this real long way around so he could come out at the bus stop and not cross paths with those scary women. And he ended up missing the bus. So then he had to call. This was back before they had cell phones. So then he had to walk around and find some place that was open and call a cab. And he did. And he got home like 3 hours later than he would have between the long walk. So he would avoid those scary women and and waiting for the cab. And then he had to pay all that money for the cab ride, which he wasn't planning on spending that night. And he got home really late, but he felt like it was really worth it. The money, the extra time, just to avoid those scary women, because he didn't know what they were going to do to him. And that's what happened to my friend. Now, what do you think about that story? Is there something in it that doesn't make sense? Have you ever heard of a man avoiding women on a corner? Have you? I haven't. I don't think 98% of men would think twice if they were going to cross paths with one woman or 4 women or however many women, unless they had weapons in their hands and on a dark city street. No, I don't. But reverse the genders. A woman is walking home or walking to a bus stop to get home, and she sees 4 men on a corner. Is she going to be scared? Yes. Is she going to wonder what they might want to do to her? Yes. And is that fear valid? Yes. Big time valid. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, I showed you how I was taught to hold my keys when I walk out to my car, especially at night. And I did that some. I never had to use them, thank goodness. But one thing I was taught, and I want to ask you guys if you were taught this too. It's so different for guys, because like a guy will walk up to his car, get his keys out of his pocket, unlock the door, get in the car, start it, and drive away. I never do that, like ever. I have my keys in my hand before I leave whatever building I'm in. And then I walk to my car and I open the door with the keys that are already in my hand. I was taught that it was not safe to walk up to a locked car, and then rummage around in my purse trying to find my keys, because, I'm kind of a sitting duck target. So why is it that women have to live in a state of vigilance in what's supposed to be a safe place? Why? So we're going to talk about that today. I did some research. The whole idea of carrying the car keys like that, I did some research, and it turns out it started in the 70s. So I thought that was really interesting. I didn't know when it started, but I knew that was something, that was just like common knowledge. That's what you're supposed to do. So for violent crimes, okay, I know it's not totally exactly 50-50, but we're going to, it's close enough. So half the people on the earth are men, half the people on the earth are women. So wouldn't you think that most things like crime, especially violent crime, would be done 50% by women and 50% by men? That might make sense somewhere in the universe, but it doesn't make sense here. 20% of violent crimes are committed by women, and 80% of violent crimes are committed by men. Now, not every crime committed by a man is done to a woman. We know that. Men attack each other all the time. And the violence that is done against women, now this is not talking about, this is just saying what is done to women. What percentage of the violence done to women do you think other women do? And what percentage do you think men do to women? 99% of the violent crimes committed against women are done by men. 1% is done by the whole other 50% of the population on the planet. So why would that woman be scared when she saw those guys on the corner? Why would she go this long way around and spend all this extra time and money and miss her bus and call a cab, but at least she's safe and she's glad she did it? Because of that. You can't look at a guy and know if he's going to attack you or not. That's not a thing. There's no way of telling that. So one thing I thought was really interesting is I cannot find statistics that tell me what percentage of men who are R-worded are R-worded by women. I just can't find that. That's not even a statistic. It must happen so infrequently that they don't have a statistic for that. And I know a lot of the R word that happens to men is done by other men. I know that, definitely. But it seems like they don't even have a statistic telling us how much of it is done by women and how much of it is done by men. And I think that's pretty meaningful. I think it's a very much less than 1%. And some people believe it's not possible to R-word a man. And a woman, I don't agree with that. I mean, people R-word each other with objects, unfortunately. And if you want to, if a female wanted to, she could tie a guy down and she could R-word him with a weapon. I mean, but so it is a thing that can be done, but statistically, I can't find any statistics telling me anything about women doing that to men. And then as far as physical and sexual violence by men, 1 in 3 women will experience that in their life. As far as violent crimes by women, 1 in 7 men will experience that in their life. And a very large percentage, and I couldn't find the exact statistic for this either. A very large percent of the men who are attacked violently by women are attacked because they're the abuser of that woman. And that woman either fights back or can't stand it anymore, or it's self-defense or it's not self-defense. I mean, it's self-defense because they're trying to make it stop, but it might not meet the legal definition of self-defense. As far as homicides by women, 23% of homicides were done by women in a 2023 California study were their abusers. They killed their abusers, and that's why they were guilty of homicide. And I couldn't find a statistic for this either, but most violent crime against women is done by current or former husbands or boyfriends. We know that. Very little crime, I shouldn't say very little, a lot less crime is done to us by strangers. Although enough is done by strangers that we should be leery of them, definitely. We shouldn't say, well, he's not my ex-husband or my ex-boyfriend or my current husband or boyfriend, so I don't have to worry about him attacking me. That is not true, and we know that. So men are attacked by other men 39% of the time. Men are attacked by women 12% of the time. 99%, again, I will say this again, 99% of the violence against women is done by men. So 99% of the violence that is done to women is done by 50% of the population. 1% of violence that is done to women is done by the other 50% of the population, the female 50%. Why is it? Why is this? Why? I know it's not considered acceptable, but it's always been this way. And I think that's something that people will say, well, it's always been this way, and men are very aggressive. And I'm definitely not saying all men. I am not lumping all men together at all. And if it sounds like I am, then I apologize for that, because I know that most men don't attack women. They don't attack anybody. They're normal. But it's just, I don't think men even understand what it's like to be female and be out alone with knowing that you could be somebody's prey and not even realize it until after they strike. And I'm going to tell you a scary thing that happened to me, that it did involve strangers. So all the way back, let's see, this was 1980. I worked at IHOP, International House of Pancakes. And I was walking home from work one day. This was here in Florida. I was walking home from work one day. I was, let me see, either 18 or I just turned 19. And I was walking east on this road. And this pickup truck drove past me. They were also going east. And they started hooping and hollering, and then it's like, but they didn't stop, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But then they turned around, and there was like this grassy area beside the road that actually had tire tracks on it. They got on that, and they started coming towards me. Now, not to run me over. I was over right by the road. They were in this grassy area. They weren't trying to like run me over with their truck. But they were coming towards me, and I got so scared because there's like 4 of them in there. They could have just grabbed me and dragged me into their truck. I was like, my heart was beating so fast. And so they got up where I was, and they actually put it in reverse and was keeping like going backwards. So they were heading west, so we crossed paths. I was going east, they were going west on this grass. So they were like, hey, baby, and all this idiotic crap. And they were like, hey, why don't you get in the truck? We'll go for a ride. And, you know, I was ignoring them. And they kept saying, I'm like, no. And I yelled it at them. And then they kept, like, hooping and hollering and stuff. They're like, we'll give you $25. I'm like, am I a prostitute? And I was like, no. And I kept walking. I was walking as fast as I could without running. And I didn't want them to know I was panicking, but I was. Because they could have so easily, 2 or 3 of them could have gotten out of the truck, dragged me into the truck, and taken me anywhere they wanted and do anything they wanted to me. And that is just the reality. And they kind of stayed there for a while, and they were laughing like it was so hilarious. And then finally they like sped off in a big cloud of dust. And I was so relieved. That was really scary. And I bet every single one of us women have a story like that. And that is not right. It should not be this way, but it's the way it is. We have to protect ourselves. Now, I was reading about this thing about having your keys sticking out between your fingers. That is definitely not advised as a good self-defense plan. The things that are recommended are pepper spray, personal alarm system. You can have like an alarm on your keychain, and also to take a self-defense course, which I haven't ever taken a self-defense course. I thought about it before, but I just haven't done it. And I almost never even go out at night. Not that the daytime makes us totally safe. It definitely doesn't. But I wanted to talk today about the fact that every time you go outside your house, there are men out there who might want to hurt you, and the problem is you can't tell which ones do want to hurt you and which ones don't. And somebody might be doing something that seems like they're getting too close to you or looking at you too much, and they might have no bad intentions at all. And then another person that might just might have bad intentions, might jump out and just grab you without you even knowing they were there. So it's very scary. And I don't walk around paranoid. I don't go to scary places. I've never been, accosted at the library or the grocery store or wherever, but people have. And this, what's worse? If you live in an abusive home, you're not safe inside your home. You're also not safe when you leave your home. And, we have a sense of safety, but it's shattered so easily. You get mugged or attacked one time by a stranger on a street, and you will lose that sense of safety, unfortunately, and it's very hard to get back. Like me personally, I have never been attacked by a stranger, and I'm grateful for that because I'm not afraid to go outside and be around people. I'm not, even though I'm talking about all this stuff, and I'm very aware of it. But if I had been, I could very well have agoraphobia right now. I don't. And agoraphobia means that you're afraid to leave your house. And what about the woman who has been attacked by a stranger, might have some agoraphobia, but is also being abused by their romantic partner that they live with? What happens to that lady? When is she safe? Does she ever have a feeling of being safe? That is one of the worst things I can think of. It's really wrong. So anyway, I would love to hear what you have to say about this, and I would love to turn this from a monologue to a dialogue, as I always say, and have you leave me a comment, tell me what you think about all this, and if any of you have been attacked by a stranger, I would love to hear, if you feel comfortable talking about it, I would love to hear how that affected your ability to be out in the world, because I really feel like that would take that away from me. Because I've already had lots of abuse in my life, but never from a stranger. Everybody who abused me were the people that were supposed to love me. Like an uncle, a step-grandfather, a husband. So anyway, yeah. So, and I don't know what's worse. They always say the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. And I have known people, I knew one lady that was definitely attacked by a stranger who just jumped out of the bushes and grabbed her. And I thought that would be the scariest thing in the whole wide world. But I found out she thought what happened to me was worse than what happened to her. And I definitely thought what happened to her was a lot worse than what happened to me. So anyway, yeah. Have a good day. And please like and subscribe. And thank you for watching my video. Bye.